Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Fam 2 Cents cooking video. And today is going to be a quick one. We're making salmon patties, which is something I have not made in quite some time. I don't know what compelled me to make it. I just kind of had the taste for it. It's not that expensive. It's pretty cheap and easy thing to make, especially if you're kind of living on a budget. You just make it with some rice or something like that and you are good to go. It's very minimal ingredients. You pretty much just need the salmon, seasoning, and some eggs, basically. Now, as you can see, I have flour here that I'm going to use to help kind of thicken up the patties, but I've been contemplating lately whether or not I should try to use breadcrumbs. I don't know if I've ever seen anybody use breadcrumbs before, but it is something that I've been thinking about. So maybe the next time I'll make this, I'll do like a versus video where I do the flour versus the breadcrumbs. But either way, as I said, this recipe is very straightforward. When you're opening your cans of salmon, it's going to have a lot of liquid in there, so you want to make sure you drain every bit of that out that you can before you start getting it together, because this isn't just a case of open the can and cook, because this salmon actually has bones in it. Now the bones aren't really that big of a deal, honestly. They're very brittle and easy to break, and to be honest, a lot of people kind of ignore it and they make sure they just grind it in really good, and it's not that much of a worry. But some people do have problems with the bones, so I like to go through and take out as many of them as I can, or at least the major sections of the bone, so that way you don't have to worry about it too much. Like I said, some people completely ignore it because they can be crushed fairly easily. Like it's not really that big a deal. Some people just completely ignore it, but this time I opted not to. So after you're done picking through and getting any bones that are openly obvious or large enough to notice out of them, then you can go ahead and start to just kind of mush it up with your hands there. Just go ahead and try to crush it as best you can. You can use your hands, you can use a fork, whatever it is you want to use, but make sure that it's grounded to a decent enough consistency to pat out into patties, because you don't really want it to be kind of fishy and flaky like fish patties are. Like if you were just to cook a fish fillet or something like that, you want to break it down as much as you can, because you're going to have to pat these out and you don't want them falling apart. One of the really good things about salmon is you don't really have to season it. The way it comes in the can, it's already kind of salted and stuff, so there's not a lot of seasoning you really have to do to it, unless you want a specific flavor profile. But I like to put a little garlic and some pepper in there, and that's kind of it. Maybe some onion powder, and just call it a day. The rule of thumb is 1 egg per can that you put in there. And as I said, I use flour this time around. I don't have an exact measurement for the flour. You kind of want to do that by eye or feel, because you want to make sure they're as easy to pat out as possible. So you want to put enough in there to where patting them out is not a problem and they're not falling apart, the stuff's not too wet, that type of thing. And that's basically it, man. There's a couple techniques you can use to pat them out. You can like kind of spread it out on a pan and use maybe the top of a cup or something like that to section out the portions. If you want to do it that way, you can pat them out by hand, but they'll be a little uneven if you do it that way, unless you're really good at maybe patting them out perfectly. You can get one of those molds. You can get one of the molds where like burger molds, if you put meat in there or whatever, to do it that way. Whatever you want to do, I mean the result's gonna be pretty close to the same anyway, so whatever floats your boat in that instance. And then obviously cooking them is just about as straightforward. You need a little oil in a pan. Doesn't really matter what kind of oil you use, that's to your preference, and you just kind of pan fry them like you're making burgers or something, or crab cakes or anything else like that. Allow them to brown on the bottom and don't mess with them, because you want that you want them to set, you want them to build a crust on the other side to where they're not falling apart, and you just flip them. It's fairly straightforward. Like it's super easy to make. Kind of difficult to mess up. I mean, I guess they can be easy to burn if you're cooking them on too high heat. But as I said, it's not hard, guys. We're not talking rocket science. It's fairly simple. One thing you may have to do, though, throughout the cooking process is to add a little more oil over time, because they soak up a lot of the oil in the bottom of the pan. Not to the point to where they're oily. They're very absorbent, I guess. But yeah, so it's up to you. It's up to you how you want to cook them, just to make sure they cook all the way through. Now, I don't know if people deep fry these or anything like that. This is kind of the only method that I've ever learned to cook them. I've never really seen other people make them. So this is how I do it. If you do it differently, or you have any other recipes, suggestions, whatever, let me know. Share them with everyone down in the comment section below, and maybe I'll try one of them in the video. But I figured I'd do a quick little short video, because this is one of my childhood favorites right here. I used to love when my mom made it. I loved it when she taught me how to make it, and I loved cooking it all the way up until now. It's still a fun, simple thing to make. It might be one of the first things I teach my daughter how to make. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hit that like button and share it, and I will see you guys on the next one.